Background, gospel choirs softly playing, faded images of church pews, and 1980s gospel record. What happened to Vanessa Bell Armstrong? She was once called the voice that shook the heavens, a gospel powerhouse who crossed boundaries, topped charts, and left congregations in awe. And yet, somewhere along the way, her voice seemed to vanish from the mainstream spotlight. Today, we uncover the rise, the struggles, and the mysterious disappearance of Vanessa Bell Armstrong, one of gospel's most soul-stirring legends. Vanessa Bell Armstrong was born on October 2, 1953, in Detroit, Michigan, the very city that gave us Motown. But unlike the Motown pop sound, her gift was nurtured in the church pews, under the heavy power of gospel tradition. Raised in a family deeply rooted in faith, Vanessa's talent was undeniable from childhood. Her soaring voice quickly made her a standout in church choirs across Detroit. By her teenage years, she was already known locally as the girl who could sing like Mahalia. Her passion wasn't just about performance, it was spiritual. Vanessa often said her goal wasn't fame, but to use her voice as ministry. In 1983, Vanessa released her first album, Peace Be Still, which immediately put her on the gospel map. The title track became her signature song, a sweeping, emotional ballad that showcased her extraordinary vocal power. Audiences described her performances as soul-quaking and otherworldly. This was not just gospel singing, it was an experience. By the late 1980s, Vanessa Bell Armstrong had become one of the first gospel artists to gain crossover attention. She performed on television shows, appeared on Broadway, and her music began charting beyond church walls. Her 1987 self-titled album included You Bring Out the Best in Me, which received mainstream radio play, a rare feat for a gospel singer at the time. She even performed for President Ronald Reagan at the White House. Vanessa was proving that gospel wasn't just for Sunday mornings. It could live on primetime television and in the homes of millions worldwide. But as Vanessa's career took off, life behind the spotlight was much more complicated. Fame in gospel came with controversy. Many in the church community criticized her for being too secular, especially as she worked with crossover producers and experimented with R&B-tinged gospel sounds. At the same time, Vanessa was facing personal battles. She was a mother of 5 children, balancing the heavy responsibilities of raising a family while touring. The demands were relentless, and the gospel industry, though rooted in faith, was not always forgiving. Her voice remained powerful, but the weight of her struggles began to take a toll. By the 1990s, Vanessa was still respected, but newer gospel voices, like Yolanda Adams, CeCe Winans, and later, Mary, began dominating the spotlight. By the early 2000s, Vanessa Bell Armstrong's presence in gospel music had dramatically slowed. Unlike her peers who adapted to modern gospel trends, Vanessa seemed to step back. Fans began asking, "Where is Vanessa? Why isn't she recording like before?" Behind the scenes, Vanessa was battling health issues, including multiple sclerosis. The disease, which affects the nervous system, caused her major challenges both physically and emotionally. Her once thunderous voice was still there, but the consistency of her performances suffered. She could not tour at the same pace as before, and her recording projects slowed. Still, her legacy was cemented. Whenever she appeared, whether on BT's Sunday Best or at tribute concerts, the audience was reminded of her unmatched gift. But those appearances were rare, and her public presence slowly faded. And so, the once unshakable voice of gospel began to grow quiet. Not silenced entirely but hidden, like a candle flickering in the distance. But what really happened to Vanessa Bell Armstrong? Why did she disappear from the spotlight? And what has become of her today? Stay with us as we uncover the second chapter of her journey. Clips of Vanessa performing in the 1980s dissolve into recent photos of her, older but still radiant, smiling in church settings. To understand what happened to Vanessa Bell Armstrong, we have to look at both the pressures of fame and the private battles that reshaped her journey. In later interviews, Vanessa admitted she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a condition that caused fatigue, weakness, and even affected her ability to stand for long periods while singing. For a woman whose life revolved around the power of her voice and stage presence, This was devastating. The disease forced her to slow down, limiting her ability to record and tour extensively. But Vanessa never stopped believing. In fact, she often said that even when her body was weak, her faith remained strong. Another reason Vanessa stepped back was family. With 5 children, she often prioritized her role as mother over music. Some of her children faced personal challenges, and Vanessa, deeply devoted to her family, chose to focus on them rather than chasing the spotlight. Her decision echoed a truth many gospel singers know: behind the glory of the stage, the struggles of everyday life remain. Though she disappeared from mainstream charts, Vanessa Bell Armstrong never fully retired. She released albums into the 2000s, including A Brand New Day, 2001, and Walking Miracle, 2007. The latter was especially powerful. Its very title reflected her battle with multiple sclerosis and her testimony of survival. On BET's hit show Sunday Best, she appeared as a guest judge and performer, reminding younger generations of her unmatched vocal power. Contestants often broke down in tears simply sharing the stage with her. It became clear, even if she wasn't as visible, Vanessa's influence remained everywhere in gospel music. Ask any gospel star today, from Yolanda Adams to Kirk Franklin, and they'll tell you, Vanessa Bell Armstrong paved the way. Her bold move into crossover gospel made it possible for others to bring gospel into mainstream spaces without shame. Her vocal style, passionate, raw, and unfiltered, inspired countless singers in both gospel and R&B. Even Beyoncé once cited gospel singers like Vanessa as shaping the emotional depth of her own performances. So, what really happened? The truth is, Vanessa didn't disappear, she simply chose a quieter path. Life forced her to slow down, with health challenges and family commitments taking center stage. The industry changed, younger artists rose, and Vanessa gracefully stepped back. But her voice? It never disappeared. It still lives in recordings, in church pews, and in the DNA of every gospel artist who came after her. Today, Vanessa Bell Armstrong lives a life away from the glare of the spotlight. She still occasionally sings at church events, tributes, and gospel celebrations, but she is no longer chasing fame. Instead, she is focused on faith, family, and health. To her fans, Vanessa remains a symbol of resilience, a woman who gave the world her voice, then chose to preserve her peace. So what happened to Vanessa Bell Armstrong? She may no longer dominate the charts, but she never disappeared. Instead, she lives on in the music she gave us, the artists she inspired, and the message she preached through every soaring note, that faith can outlast any storm.